It's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again with another news video. That's right, there's already been a news video out today. There's also been our predictions for Full Gear at the weekend, which myself and Owen will be live streaming on YouTube, so do join us then. And there's more news to talk about now. So without any further ado, let's get into those headlines, guys. First of all, Roman Reigns' next rival, the next person he's going to be feuding with, appears to have been revealed. Next up, it seems as though WWE and AEW are interested in signing the same wrestler. And finally, we take a look at the reason for a match's or a certain feud's absence at AEW Full Gear this weekend. Yes, first of all, let's go to Uncle David Meltzer, who has been talking about Roman Reigns and his next rival in WWE. Obviously, there's been this feud with Jey Uso, but now that Jey Uso appears to have accepted Roman as the head of the family, you know, the tribal chief and all that sort of stuff, now Roman needs a new person to feud with, a new rival, and Meltzer reckons he knows who that is, so let's take a look. When talking about Survivor Series, Meltzer said there are still 2 weeks of Raw and 3 weeks of SmackDown left, but Raw is building some stuff when it comes to tension amongst the Raw men's and women's teams, but not building any angles yet with the SmackDown team in the sort of the mold of Under Siege. Remember that? Bloody Shane McMahon, what's he like? In the money spots, he goes on, Roman Reigns right now has no program. His television time has been around getting Jey Uso to side with him and start a heel faction. He is scheduled to work with Daniel Bryan, out of necessity it seems, because Bryan wasn't positioned like a main event title contender at all when he returned. And that does indeed make sense. You know, you've got Bryan losing to Jey Uso on SmackDown last week, somebody Bryan would never have lost to in singles competition, even, you know, a year ago or even less time. But now suddenly he has Jey Uso has sided with Roman Reigns, the start of this heel faction, and according to Meltzer, they're pairing Roman up with Daniel Bryan going forwards, but not because it was any sort of long-term plan or storyline they had, just because that seems to be the best case scenario right now. Obviously the roster is spread a little bit thin due to the pandemic, and I think this could be a bit of a happy accident, because we know by this point in time that everything Daniel Bryan touches turns to gold. He is magical when it comes to just every aspect of professional wrestling, in-ring, promos, storylines, silly feuds, serious feuds. He can do it all. He can work brilliantly as a heel or a face. I genuinely don't know which I prefer him as. I think he's fantastic, and I think that even though this may be a short-term solution or a hurried answer to who Roman Reigns is going to feud with next, if anyone can make the most of it, it's Daniel Bryan. Combine that with the fact that Roman is absolutely on fire now, and I think we could see something really good. Next up, sticking with Dave Meltzer, we're going to talk about a wrestler that apparently both WWE and AEW are interested in signing. He's appeared in WWE in the past, he's appeared in New Japan quite a lot in the past, he's appeared in the relaunched World of Sport here in the UK on ITV, and his name is Davey Boy Smith Jr. So Meltzer was saying about Davey Boy Smith today, he's under contract through to the 18th of December. I assume he means with MLW. He was going to start as a regular with All Japan at the Champion Carnival tournament, and then the pandemic hit. The Champions Carnival is like their G1 climax. That's a pretty big deal for Davey Boy Smith to get involved with, and would be an example of a New Japan guy, or a former New Japan guy, crossing the divide, jumping over to All Japan, which would have been very interesting. Davey Boy's like the new Great Muta or something. However, what actually ended up happening was, as Meltzer's mentioned, the pandemic hit and Davey Boy couldn't enter the Champions Carnival. He was at Chris Jericho's Halloween party this past week and spoke to Tony Khan, apparently, according to Meltzer, but they aren't talking any business until after his MLW deal is up. He's had interest from WWE, Khan expressed interest, and there is interest from All Japan, Impact, and MLW to renew the contract there, and he has no favourite or leaning past saying this decision will be made based on offer and whatever makes the most sense business-wise. Is it just me, or is Tony Khan being a bit polite there? Some guy comes up to you at a party, you own a wrestling promotion, they go like, yo, I want to, you know, wrestle for you, and you what do? You've had a few drinks, you're in a good mood, you might be like, yeah man, yeah, definitely, we'll talk about it. As Davey Boy then reported, that is, no, in all seriousness, it seems like a lot of companies are very interested in Davey Boy Smith Jr. there. Maybe the most natural fit would be AEW, because currently his former tag partner Lance Archer is doing really well on the main roster there. So maybe they'd make the most sense. Apparently Impact are also keen, WWE, MLW to renew the contract, and All Japan as well. When did Davey Boy Smith Jr. become the hottest free agent around? I think we need to make a stable of people who dominate these sort of stories. Can we pair Davey Boy Smith Jr. up with James Storm and Thunder Rosa, and then we can have the in-demand free agents and they can run roughshod over the wrestling world. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see where Davey Boy Smith ends up. Davey Boy Smith Jr., of course. Apologies for getting mixed up in the middle of my reading of Meltzer's excerpt there. Sometimes his sentences Yeah. Next up, let's go to PW Insider, who apparently have received word that on Thursday, top WWE executives took part in a town hall style meeting for employees behind the scenes. And there were some very interesting developments because of this meeting. Let's take a look. Once again, this is via PW Insider. The biggest thing apparently to be revealed from this meeting was the company instituting a flexible work policy going forwards. It was said that depending on the jobs of employees, they can choose to work from the office or from home and will not be required to return full-time to the office. Kind of following the Cultaholic model there, taking precautions under difficult times. Speaking of the office, again, this is via PW Insider, the company plans to move forward with its new HQ in Stamford, which has been delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you remember, just before everything got locked down, really, it was being reported that WWE were going to move from Titan Towers into, I think, a bigger facility in Stamford, Connecticut. So still in Connecticut, but like just an upgrade, it sounded like, from Titan Towers. That obviously got put on hold. Now it seems like those plans are going to go ahead. But apparently, well, this has been documented before, it says here in the PW Insider report, but also apparently it is a much larger headquarters. That's what I was trying to clarify there. So apparently it is a lot bigger than Titan Towers. What's it going to be called? Gargantuan Towers? Apparently also when taking questions, these executives, the question of live events was brought up. The company noted that there is still uncertainty as to when they can resume live events given the current COVID-19 environment. Other questions were about Khan and Salen talking about why they joined the company. That's other executives there. It was said to be a mostly positive meeting with the company, thanking everybody for their hard work. So that's nice, isn't it? Nice that there was a positive backstage meeting in WWE, because there's been so many reports. It seems like weekly reports of discontent to do with, to be honest, quite valid concerns quite a lot of the time, things to do with safety, COVID-19 procedures and that sort of thing. But yeah, the takeaway from this town hall meeting, I think, is that one, certain employees, depending on their jobs, can choose to work from home if they wish. And secondly, they're going ahead with moving into this new Stamford HQ. Not Titan Towers, the bigger one. And finally, let's talk about why a certain feud, a certain match, is not being represented on the AEW Full Gear card this weekend. And that match is Miro and Kip Sabian and the Best Friends in some combination, maybe a tag match, maybe a singles match between a guy from each of the teams, because they've been arguing quite a lot recently. And I thought, and I think many people thought, they may add a little extra match, maybe on the pre-show or on the main card of Full Gear this weekend, to represent that feud, to carry the storyline forwards a bit. But according to Meltzer, the reason there was no Miro and Kip Sabian versus Best Friends match on the pay-per-view is that the decision was made to keep that as a long-term Dynamite program, similar to the Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz, which obviously ended in spectacular fashion in that parking lot brawl, and Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks. I think that's actually quite wise. Not every feud you showcase on AEW, I suppose, can build up to a big blow-off match at the pay-per-view. I think maybe it is wise to have some feuds play out entirely on television, because it makes people tune into the TV as well. It gives TV value beyond just building to the pay-per-view. Also, it can lead to amazing, matches like that backstage parking lot brawl between Santana Ortiz and the Best Friends. Everyone loved that. It was the focus very much of that episode, or the highlight of that episode. And not every episode has to concern itself with big, A storylines main eventing every single episode of TV. Sometimes you can have one of the B storylines take the spotlight for a little while. So I do understand this. I wonder if maybe the feud would have benefited from being on the pay-per-view a little bit, but I don't know. We'll have to see how it develops on Dynamite next time. Another reason I've just thought of, though, actually, is because this week's pay-per-view is pretty stacked. It's got a lot of matches on it, a lot of high-stakes matches as well. Not just the title matches, but we've got Moxley Kingston, FTR Young Bucks. We've got Shida and Nyla Rose, which hasn't been built up to as well, but it is still a title match, obviously, on Full Gear. We've got Cody versus Darby Allin. We've got matches that are non-title matches, which still have tremendous stakes. MJF versus Jericho. If MJF wins, he goes into the Inner Circle. It's a stacked show. Quite a lot. Orange Cassidy versus John Silver as well, I forgot to mention. It's quite a stacked show. And I think maybe if they put Sabian and Miro versus the Best Friends on there, it would just get kind of lost in the shuffle. Maybe they'll show themselves during Orange Cassidy's match and get into a bit of a brawl. But even if they don't, I think keeping this on TV could be a good decision. But we'll have to see what goes on. Once again, myself and Owen will be live streaming our reactions to AEW Full Gear on Saturday night on YouTube. So join us if you want, it'll be a good laugh. And also, thank you very much for watching this video. Leave your thoughts and opinions on any of these stories in that comment section down below. Stay safe out there as well, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.